Hello and welcome to our very first game session of Seven Raven, our Forbidden Lands play along here live play with Streampunks. As you all see here, we have a good company of people here for this very first campaign of 2022. This is our interim campaign, of course, leading us into Changing the Dreaming, but it was our opportunity to sort of play a game that Sam and I, in particular, have really enjoyed and have a lot of fun with. So we hope you enjoy the game tonight. Let's go ahead and start things off. And before we jump into announcements, you're used to seeing Sam Leve and you're used to seeing Aliza Pearl, but we have a new player that's hanging with us tonight. Would you please introduce yourself to our audience who already loves and adores you?
Hello, my name is Kelli Butler, mostly known as the Opera Geek, and I am super excited to be here because these are people I've wanted to play with for so long.
Yay! On that note, you'll notice that our dearly announced BeeZelda is not with us tonight. They are going to be joining us next game session, so stay tuned for that. They will be in on session 2. Announcement-wise, nothing. I got nothing. Top of the show today, I got nothing. All I can tell folks that are watching this right now is the Streampunks is planning on launching a Changing the Dreaming Chronicle in February. That's the current plan right now. And if you have been interested in the old school World of Darkness game lines, Changing the Dreaming is a deeply personal and a very beautiful favorite game of mine. It's meant a lot. A lot of people who have known me and who have followed our work for a while know how long I've been talking about this, how much it means to me. And then, of course, there's the $789 customized core book that the community helped me buy from a gentleman who built it in Spain and shipped it to me overseas. Thanks, guys. So, Kelli, I'll tell you all about it after. It's a wild story. It's a totally wild story. But unless anybody has any announcements or anything that y'all want to talk about that we have coming up, do y'all have any shows that y'all want to talk about? Yes, Aliza's like, yeah, when do I not have a show? When is that? Yes, go ahead, Aliza.
I mean, do you know me? I do have a show I'd like to announce. I'm going to be running a Delivery Dragons one-shot next Sunday, the 23rd. So just a little under a week from when this airs. And it's going to be 3 p.m. Pacific time. The Twitch channel is TTRPG. So TEATRPG, like sipping. And the cast is amazing. I have, my goodness, I'm going to forget everyone who's playing, but it's just like a dream table. It's like we have Abria Iyengar playing, we have Brandy Rose, we have Super Dylan, we have Big Dude Ree who plays on my Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and I'm sorry, I'm forgetting all the other amazing people who are playing. It's just ridiculous. It's an amazing table. So come watch us, watch them be delivery dragons who deliver the post to different places. It's going to be very fun, and it's going to be supporting the Children's Burn Foundation. So definitely check it out, and please contribute if you can. And that's my announcement.
Awesome, thank you, Aliza. Sam, you looked like you wanted to announce something.
Oh, yes. Our coffee subscribers for Streampunks might be familiar with Forbidden Lands because that is the system that Eric and I play as a one game for our Discord and coffee subscribers through VOD. We are going to be doing that again this month, continuing the story, but we are also probably within the next week or so going to be doing a little mini marathon of the first 3 episodes so that people who haven't seen yet can get caught up. So if you enjoy Forbidden Lands and you would like some more, subscribing to us on Coffee is a great way to see that. Subscribers, please stay tuned for updates regarding said mini marathon. That said, I do have a second announcement. I will luxuriate in the space of 2 announcements. That is, I've wanted to play with Kelli for so long, and now I get to be at a table with her, and this is the best possible game I could ever be at a table with her, and the point is that I'm excited.
Well, on that note, I say we go ahead and begin the story of Seven Raven. Before we begin tonight's game, I want to go ahead and give a quick disclaimer that for some of the players in this group, this will be their first time playing the game system of Forbidden Lands. So if you have been interested in learning how to play, this is going to be an excellent opportunity, because one of the things that I threw out to the players tonight is that please don't feel polished. We're going into this all learning as we play. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you've had questions about rules, or if you want to watch some experienced role players learn a new RPG, this is going to be a good experience for you. So stick around. Now, let's get into the story and the setup here. As I've said before, as it's been stated many, many a time by historians and your instructor, for the past 300 years, the land of Ravenland has been completely enveloped in a mysterious vapor called the Blood Mist. Each sunset, this red vapor rolls in from seemingly out of nowhere, and anyone caught outside after dark was either never seen again or presumed to be devoured by this blood mist. This has choked off the land for the past 3 centuries. Everything that built up to it before then, the wars, the empires, the divisions, the territorial disputes, the ambitions, all of that shattered, along with communities that relied upon one another, trade routes. Everything broke apart as the world became cut off from itself. No one has any idea where it came from or why it happened. Some, of course, went straight to their mythologies and their religions and assumed that it was punishment from the gods. And some believe that it had something to do with demonic magics, which is a very valid theory, considering that the times before the Blood Mist was fraught with war and demons being used as soldiers marching around the land to slaughter everybody in the path of their master, a sorcerer named Zygofer. Now, in the past 300 years, no one has seen or heard from this sorcerer since. In just the past 6 years, the Blood Mist vanished. As mysteriously as it's arrived, it vanished. It was a little alarming at first to consider that it might be some kind of trick. No one was willing to travel far outside of their villages, and not trusting that they wouldn't be ambushed by it sometime later that week. But weeks turned into months, and then months turned into years. Even so, the traumatic experience of growing up in a life where all you've ever known is the Blood Mist, people were not willing to leave their communities. Indeed, many found themselves to be even more insular than they were before, now that the roads were opening up, expecting demons that they had heard about from legends to come sauntering in and taking everything. Well, for some, that actually did happen. With the Blood Mists opening up, it's more than just an opening of the world. Yes, there are monsters out roaming in the world now that are unchecked and have been unchecked for 3 centuries. But the people of Ravenland have started to venture out. And in some cases, this has been good. Trade has opened up for some communities that are close to each other. And people are reconnecting. 300 years? Imagine discovering you have an ancestor that lives 2 weeks away because of a bloodline. It has been a very tumultuous period these past 6 years, a period of great change and alarm, but also opportunity and hope. Without the Blood Mist, maybe Ravenland has a future. That optimism is being threatened these days by the fact that bandits, nobility that wants to reclaim their fallen empires, and all manner of creatures out there wanting to seize that which has been left vulnerable from the lifting of the Blood Mist. Everything from castles that have no more defenses to ancient treasure troves and dungeons. This land is ripe for raiding and taking. Sometimes that means places where people live, villages and towns. It is an uncertain time. You, each of you, for your own reasons, have come to this village, this place. Perhaps you grew up here, or perhaps you've landed here. Some of you journeyed here because you were instructed to find a place here by mentors, and some of you just found yourselves sauntering in. This is Seven Raven, a unique little town in the heart of all Ravenland. Seven Raven was a small village 300 years ago, but when the blood mist descended, Seven Raven's location on Lake Clay at the base of this river in the realm of Moldina here in Ravenland, its location meant that it was one of the few safe havens that was in distance of many cultures that had been trapped out and got caught in the blood mist as it rolled in. And in those early days, in the weeks that followed, one by one, kinfolk from across Ravenland came to Seven Raven looking for shelter, looking for hope, looking for anything to save them from that red vapor that was killing everything. It wasn't easy at first, but after 3 centuries, Seven Raven has become a very unique village. It has grown into a full township with a population of roughly 460 people of every culture, which in Ravenland and the divisive times that predated Seven Raven, that's unheard of. Seven Raven has become the melting pot of Ravenland, a place where everybody from orcs, goblins, elves, dwarves, halflings, humans, wolfkin, they all manage to live day to day in acceptance of one another, in cooperation with one another. They had to. Practicality didn't give anyone the luxury of ignorance or stupidity, and cultures had to put down old prejudices and angers and learn how to cooperate if they were going to survive. In 300 years, Seven Raven has become a very special beacon of hope for the future. But you wouldn't know it when upon walking through the streets, because like every other town in all of Ravenland, it has suffered being cut off from the world in the past 300 years. Think about it. Ravenland being as big as it is, Seven Raven being on the base of the river, the nearest forest is about a day and a half's journey away. Where are you getting lumber? Repairs and things like that were made difficult. Things fell into disarray. People had to get clever. And people did. Lumber was got because of the ingenuity of the dwarves and the orcs working together with the elves. And Seven Raven has managed to survive. But Seven Raven has one thing more that's unique. Perched upon a high hill just over Lake Clay is a keep, supposedly that belonged to some noble ancient in the ancient times. A keep that was long thought haunted and no one was willing to go into. However, now it has become the base, the home base, a stronghold for a blossoming, very young organization that the folk of Seven Raven have called and decided to brand Mist Stalkers. And that is where you all come in. The Mist Stalkers is a brand new order, and many outside of Seven Raven maybe have never even heard of you, perhaps. But the Mist Stalkers are the rare few who acknowledge that the dissipation of the blood mist has opened up all sorts of new threats that the people of Ravenland are not ready for. Bandits, you can deal with that. But the things that stalked this land in the ancient times when Zygofer was summoning forth the demonic legions, those have been left unchecked to breed, to conquer, to multiply, to entrench themselves. And in the past 6 years, all the evidence in the world has been presented that that is the case. Seven Raven, many a time, has found itself in the clutches or the shadow of a creature that has decided to come feed or destroy anything it can, smelling out the presence of a civilization nearby. And that is why the Mist Stalkers are both feared and valued, because you all are the ones that just might be enough out of your minds to face these things. The head of your order, get ready for some names, y'all. The head of your order is a man named Tylis, Tyliss. Tylis was the one that started the Mist Stalkers. With enough gold at his side, which is considerable in Ravenland, he was able to send out a call for anybody who thought that they had what it takes to undergo his training. It's been vigorous. But you're not the only Mist Stalkers. There's 2 others. One of them is currently, BeeZelda, out on mission, far away from Seven Raven. You have another one named Merrick, who's a human fighter, warrior of sorts, who is currently in the middle of an investigation not far from Seven Raven. And then you have Gim, your halfling blacksmith, who has also set up residence in this crumbling stronghold. The walls of this stronghold have managed to held up, and there's a lot of theory that they might be dwarven made, considering their incredible endurance of the weather and the elements and the lack of repair. They have actually managed to hold up pretty well. There are 3 levels to this stronghold, and it's quite spacious. Though, just like most big stone buildings of its make, the draft is pretty bad. The temperatures are not very well in this place. Thankfully, though, that's put off by the fact is Tylis, even though he is retired from frontlining as a Mist Stalker, unless he's absolutely needed, Tylis also happens to be a damn fine cook. So that has come in handy. When he's not teaching swordplay and shield work, Tylis is making some damn fine stews. The town of Seven Raven itself has its own denizens, and we'll get to that in a bit. But Seven Raven, being shadowed over by the stronghold, because of the name of the town and because of the services the Mist Stalkers provide, again, the townsfolk of Seven Raven have come to lovingly call the keep that you all live in simply the Perch, which is where the Mist Stalkers reside. In return for services rendered, the people of Seven Raven have accommodated the lot of you by offering food and water and supplies when needed, as part of sort of a long-term contract that Tylis has set up with the ruling council of 4 of Seven Raven. And it's worked out pretty far. So, if any of you was coming here for refuge or a chance to start a new life, that much has been given to you so far. Though Tylis has warned all of you again and again and again, particularly on those days in the training yard where he sees your form in need of correction, don't expect to have a lifespan worth a damn, so long as you stay within the order. You think he's half joking each time he cracks that joke. And that's going to bring us to the early mornings of this day. It is a fall day, the 2nd month of fall, and the cold has finally arrived. The gray storm clouds that have gathered all over to the east, just off the coasts of Ravenland, you can see even from here, just on the other side of the mountains. And it seems to herald that this is going to be a heavy winter. You can expect thick snowfall. But for now, you can enjoy at least mildly frigid temperatures, especially in the morning. And true to form, each of you waking up in your pathetic straw beds in your small rooms in this keep, wake up clutching yourselves with breath visible in front of you, coming out in hot plumes as your eyes open. The morning rituals are simply dressing yourselves, cleaning yourselves up, visiting the chambers, and then almost always Tylis has food prepared for all of you. That much is certain. For those of you who can detect it, the scent of boiling potatoes is carrying all the way up from the stairs winding down below. The stairs, by the way, having long since eroded away, whatever dwarven framework was once here, Tylis has made some adjustments to the keep. For the rest of you, who may not necessarily be able to detect the scent of spiced potatoes, the moisture and the heaviness of the sound of distant crackling fires entering into the room is such a sharp contrast to the frigid, cold, dry air that it too is enough to wake you up. It's like a distant hot breath drifting into your room and making its way into your nostrils. Not unpleasant breath, however. And that is where we will begin our story. This first chapter. Waking up in the morning, the narrative is y'all's. What do our Miss Stalkers do as the dawn begins to rise?
Well,
What do you see your morning ritual being?
Gordon is an early riser, and also a night owl. So Gordon doesn't sleep very much, but doesn't really need sleep. Doesn't need quite as much sleep as others might. So Gordon is up already and heads down from the perch to the lake and does like a nice run around the lake to kind of get his day started. He likes to go for a run in the cold morning air.
As you emerge from your room, Gordon, if we were watchers seeing you emerge from the other side of the hallway, what would we see stepping out of Gordon's room?
You see a hulking, 6 foot tall, muscular, furry wolf man.
Dressed in like the armored leathers. What weapon does Gordon have on them?
Well, Gordon has, he's him, and he has a two-handed longsword.
Okay.
That he holds in, he puts in a carrier on his back. He doesn't take that for his run.
Okay.
So he steps out and he literally just has the type of armor that's just kind of patches strung together with straps of leather. Because he has fur, he doesn't need a coat. He has his coat on him. On his bottom half, he has almost a little bit of like a leather kilt. So like straps of leather kind of bolted together, and then some little straps and buttons and things that he can kind of strap other tools to his kilt. And he has like some knee-high scrunchy boots as well, leather as well.
I appreciate any wolfkin that carries the fashion sense of my people.
So
I tip my hat to any kilt-wearing creature in this world. All right. Gordon, as you move down to the top of what was once a pretty eroded staircase, now having been made into what looks like a very finely ground long ramp that just kind of curves all the way down to the base, you can hear the familiar clacking sounds of one of Tylus's crutches that he uses to move around on the stone floor in the kitchens. And sure enough, anticipating being spotted, as you reach the base of the stairs, you do see Tylus. You enter into the main chamber. Now, this might have been a great meeting hall at some point where some asshole rich lord probably sat to take court. But now it is what looks like the remains of an open room with a couple of fallen stones to the left and the right, and some pretty crude long tables, like almost like a Viking long table in the center of the room that has been in constant need of sanding and repair. You can see over near this great big pot kind of boiling over the top of this really large fire centered in the center. You can smell the mesquite coming through and some of the other types of woods that are burning underneath this pot. You see Tylus, who stands roughly about 5'10", 5'11"-ish, has a very wiry build. He's somebody who in his youth was probably quite muscular in doing his work. But as a man who's now in his 60s, he is starting to see that wire build come into play. Still quite agile for his age, however. Deep brown skin, dark brown chestnut eyes. He keeps his head shaved at all times. But his head, too, is starting to exhibit signs of that age, as you're starting to see sort of like almost a snow capping of peppered, shaved hair, whiten across his scalp. His thick leather armors showing years of repair and reuse. Always has a sword at his side. always, of course, leaning on his crutch to compensate for the leg he lost when he was a very young Miststalker. Kind of, even though it stops at the knee, you know that he has a prosthetic that he has had crafted and used from time to time. But you also know that sometimes Tylus doesn't care to put it on in the morning and prefers his crutch and is just moving around, swinging around. A bit of lore for you too, Gordon. You also know that Tylus, in his early youth, learned how to weaponize that crutch. And when you see him using it, it's often him sort of staying in practice. It's not something he talks about, but as a warrior, it's something you've picked up on. And you can indeed see him as he's pouring this sort of soup into these thick wooden bowls and setting them onto the table. The way he maneuvers around and kind of pivots his weight and swoops around the side of the bowl to get another one and scoop it up and put it in. You know he's practicing his footwork on that crutch as you move downstairs. He immediately spots you, kind of glances up at you from this steaming pot as you're moving out. He just says, "Going on your run then?"
Of course, old man. You're looking
I don't know
mighty
why you
spry.
bother doing that. I don't understand anyone who runs to get healthy. Makes no damn sense to me.
I don't run to get healthy. I am healthy. I run to feel free.
Oh, you run to feel free. I'm a prisoner. You're a prisoner here, are you? I'm your jail keeper. Is that what it is?
What are you on about today? Are you not feeling well? You're so spicy this morning. What's all with all the sass?
My sass is dedicated to the fact that I have prepared all this fine food, and you're walking out the door.
Well, when you get some meat on the stove, I'll be back for that.
Well, you better hurry. I can't guarantee that a certain magic-using half-elf won't try to take it all from you before you get back.
Well, if they know what's best for them, they'll leave me a nice big piece.
Thaydri does not, in fact, know what is best for them. Get on now.
Well, I'll be back in a jiff.
Mm.
Oh! He runs out at the door.
And the rest of you, what are you all doing this morning?
Are you a late riser or on the earlier side, Sylphane?
She's probably woken up a little earlier, but she's hit the proverbial alarm clock about 7 times. Yeah. Whatever passes for an alarm clock. If there was a chicken there, she'd hit the chicken.
It's actually probably the sound of Gim down in the main yard striking something with a hammer.
She probably would have learned early on not to throw things out the window at him. So Sylvain would have gotten up, and she's a rather tall, very fair-skinned half elf, which she does not attempt to hide, as you know, she has her hair pulled back, and you can definitely see her ears. Her hair, which is probably seen better days and hasn't seen a really good brush in a very long time. She's a bit raggedy. So she just kind of runs her fingers through her hair and pulls on her armor, which definitely looks patched in lots of places, not always expertly. She is not a small person. She's very solidly built. But she moves still rather gracefully, almost like she got the human build and the elf dexterity. And then as she is raking her fingers through her hair, she will yawn, reach over and yank an old tapestry off the wall and wrap it around herself like a snuggie. And
just
make
come
her way
down
up.
dust.
And just make her way up to the hall, probably still yawning.
Okay.
She wouldn't have strapped. She has a sword. She does use a long sword, but she does not carry it into the hall.
Okay. Out of curiosity, is Thaydri there waiting, or is Thaydri still getting up?
Thaydri has been up probably about as long as Gordon, but hasn't left their room. They have been getting ready for the day, and as they've been reading, let's say, Horrific Beasts and How to Bind Them.
Okay.
So by the time you would see Phaedry, they are just finishing up the fairly elaborate Daenerys-like braids that they seem always to have. That's the thing. If they were doing it every morning, then it looks like they didn't sleep on them, that they didn't get frizzy. But where do they find the time to do the braid every morning? How is this happening? But as a result, they are likely the last into the hall behind Sylvain. They look very put together, and it'd be very nice to say that they have the grace from their elven side, like Sylvain. It wouldn't be true, but it would be nice. They are, in contrast to their counterparts, a singularly unimpressive physical specimen. They're a little short. They are in no way muscular. Grace trained, but not innate. They have fairly dark auburn hair in those braids, and they have blue-gold heterochromia.
Nice.
They're not wearing, they have like maybe a utility knife, and they have a small bandolier with a few different vials of just like some rocks, some water, maybe a little sliver of flint. But they don't have this armor stuff. They have some rather nice robes and a cloak, because it's a touch chilly for their taste, with a silver brooch and a little bit of embroidery that seems to match the needlepoint style that you would have seen on a counter in the room, something that they're probably working on while they read.
Okay.
So they are absolutely the walk and read into the hall.
The thing that you and Sylvain would note is, upon entering to this hall, and assuming you settle in for the breakfast or whatever you do, but when you enter this hall after leaving the rooms and heading down to the main hall, what you do notice is how empty the perch feels this morning. Not that it's not always kind of empty in here. I mean, in truth, the Order of the Mist Stalkers is incredibly small right now. It's maybe 5 of you. But that's just it. As per usual, Gordon has probably gone out for their constitution. He is probably doing something to feel free, as it were. But it does feel off to the both of you as you emerge and enter into the main hall, where you see Tylus, who has got bowls of steaming stew. It's being laid out onto the great table, one by one, at the head of the table near where he is serving it. He just kind of sucking some of the soup off of his fingers and waving his hand as he's clearly burned himself a little bit on the hot liquid, and he sees you all coming down. He just kind of nods, but the two of you know Tylus long enough to know that something is up. He's got that sort of grim, dark look on his face when he's trying to do something nice and not give it away, but something is up. Nope, you're muted.
Of course I am. Sylvain will walk over to the table, to one of the spots where the stew is, and kind of, the only way I can describe it is a Riker. So she throws her leg over the bench and sits down, grabs the bowl, and kind of leans on the table with one elbow and starts eating, but just staring at Tylus while she's eating, with that, weird stare like toddlers give you when they want to ask you something, but they don't. That's how she's looking at him.
Okay.
While she eats.
He gives you that look that I can only describe as sort of the Edward James Olmos look, where he kind of glances at your direction for a second, and it's acknowledging that he knows that you know, but he says nothing yet. And he just puts a bowl and slides that over to you, Thaedry. The only light in this room right now is just it's ambient light coming from the gray morning and the great windows, these open windows from overhead.
I'm going to continue reading and let the fact that I'm not paying attention to the very obvious thing in the room infuriate him until he speaks. But in the meantime, I'll be reading and eating.
What you start becoming aware of, Thaedry, especially after Sylvain kind of gives him the look, is you're starting to feel like bad news is coming. About 5 or so minutes of quiet as you're flipping through the pages and glancing up from time to time before the doors open, and returning is Gordon, heaving these big plumes of breath as you've returned from your early morning run, as it were.
And also brushing his fur, which is a mix of black and brown and gray fur, just like shiny coat, using an actual brush.
Tylus motions you to rather impatiently to come over to the table and sets down a bowl next to Sylvain.
Gordon thumps down at the table and just starts digging in unceremoniously.
Feel the wood creak next to you, Sylvain, as Gordon just big wolfkin just sits down.
Yeah, she kind of adjusts, to counter the sudden sag. Hello to you two.
Morning.
Good morning. Yes. Good run?
Oh, wonderful. The air was crisp.
I was asking to be polite.
Oh. All right, then.
It was hypothetical.
I close my book.
Or rhetorical. I forget. And she just keeps eating.
Well, looking at Tylus.
Tylus is immediately, as you ask that, you see Tylus is grabbing a chair and scrooching it and like dragging it over to the head of the table where he sets it. And then he settles in, and you see him kind of get situated for a second before he takes a wooden spoon and he exhales and says, Merrick isn't back. He hasn't returned. He's past the 13-day mark, which means there's a problem. He was investigating reports of some kind of creature just seen south of the river. One of the Council of Four had hired him to go investigate and report back to us. He hasn't made any contact with us since.
Would we know Merrick well enough to know whether or not that's something out of character, like really out of character?
Mm-hmm. When it's close by, you all know what's really occurring to all of you is that when it's just a scouting look, especially when it's just an investigation look, you all set sort of deadlines for each other so that you all have an idea if you're in trouble. If you're not back within a certain amount of time that's agreed upon, then there's a small grace period. And then if you're still not back then, it's presumed shit has gone down. In this case, in Merrick's case, as you're all exchanging looks, each one of you is aware that the agreement before he headed off on this by himself was 4 days.
And
4
he's
days.
13.
13-day. The grace period that the grace period that Tylus agreed to give him was an extra 5 days for a total of 9. Because as you all know, Merrick is somebody who can get sidetracked from time to time on his journeys. He's good at what he does when he finally finds out what to get done, but for the most part, he can be easy to sort of sidetrack, particularly if there's a brothel or a tavern involved.
So he's dead.
We don't know.
Could be kidnapped. Might not be dead.
Could be lying in a ditch somewhere.
2 broken legs.
So by the time we got there, dead.
Absolutely.
We're
But we
gonna
can still go take a look. I mean,
Tylus
We
looks
should at least
completely
try to
humorless as he's watching all of you, and he goes and takes a bite out of the meat of the soup and watches you as you chews that.
So we're gonna go and find him or what, old man?
I need you to talk to Vadith. He's one of the Council of 4 and 7, Raven. I need to find out exactly what they were having him do and where he was last spotted. And I need the 3 of you to go find him and make sure he's not dead.
How in denial does Tylus look right now?
Tylus looks grim. He doesn't look like he's in denial at all. But you see a genuine, almost like, the one thing you've noticed about, the one thing all of you have learned about Tylus is, despite his sort of grim, dark attitude towards things and his sort of grim way of approaching things, he is incredibly protective of each and one of you. And you can see a little bit of that dogged anger, determination in his face as he is saying this straight laced to you all.
So we meet with them, find out what Merrick was hunting. Hunt it better? Find him?
And avenge his death.
We don't know he's dead yet.
Set
Well,
his
if he
broken
is.
legs.
Pre-avenge his death if he's not dead yet.
That
And
actually
Sylvain just kind of does the.
It makes
Stew.
sense in my head.
Hmm.
All right. Well,
Oh, do we have to go talk to the council?
Yes.
They'll probably talk at us.
exactly. They
That's
like
the
to do all
problem.
the talking.
Sylvain will kind of stand up and, drop her tapestry. God knows there's probably a pile of them somewhere at this point, because she just drops them wherever she happens to be at the moment. Well, no sense waiting around then.
That's what I say. Let's be on then. Everyone done having some breakfast?
Phaedry is not done.
Whatever you
Phaedry did
find.
not wolf food down quickly.
Wolf food.
They said what they said. It's not that they were going deliberately slow. It's just that there's etiquette.
They're not a wolf man? You
And
mean?
they're well, I mean, I don't know how finished Sylvain is with her food and how quickly that evaporated either.
Probably like 3/4 of the way.
Right. So
At this point, Tylus does speak up again. He says, whatever you find, come back here first. I want to know where you're going.
All right, old man, we'll do that. While you're finishing your breakfast, I'm gonna go check in with Gim. I want to see if my bear trap is working right. So maybe by the time I come back, you'll be done eating.
I'm not going with you.
No,
I'll have
not
to
you. I know that, old man. I'm
Who are
talking
you
to them.
speaking
Oh, I'm done. I'm done eating. It's the potato. They're very filling.
to?
I just nod to Gordon.
Okay.
All right. Mind if I stop by Gim then?
Hurry. Get a move on.
All right. I'm gonna just run upstairs to get my bear trap, and I'll just get equipped too while I'm up there, and then come back down and go outside to Gim.
Okay. Outside is, again, you are embraced by the autumn morning. It is a gray sky, and the cold winds blowing in are nice and crisp for you, in particular, Gordon. But the weather's probably not going to get any warmer for here on out, and you are seeing the beautiful sight of autumn leaves being carried through the skies overhead. You move
so
towards the
pretty.
open courtyard, and you see a very humble little blacksmith setup out here. I say humble because not a lot of money has come into the stronghold yet for improvements, which I'll go ahead and note to all of you, since this is your stronghold. One of the fascinating things about Forbidden Lands is the function the stronghold has for you all. For example, because you woke up in your stronghold this morning, And because you had a hearty breakfast at the dinner table with friends, you all gain 1 point of willpower, which is an incredibly valuable resource in Forbidden Lands. I'm also pleased to tell all of you, as this is our first game session, that true to my promise, before we went on winter break, we were given a story point through one of our coffee subscribers that asked me to bank that. It was for our final game of Star Jam, and we get to use it. The message, I'll go ahead and relay the message that was sent to us by our supporter, said, mention it being a gift for all the hope and gifts given to me, a healthcare worker still fighting COVID.
Oh, that is so lovely.
So this is going to function like this. You have a story point that any one of you can use at any moment for any roll. And what it will do is it will add a D10 artifact die to whatever you are rolling. And that's really, really valuable. It's not a guarantee, but it enhances your chances of succeeding dramatically. So keep that in mind. And as we move forward with further games, to all of our Superpunk subscribers who all get a story points once per month for subscribing and supporting us, each one of them will have the option of telling me when they want their story points to be used, and they will be credited on stream. So thank you. That being said, Gordon, approaching the blacksmith, you can see Gim. Gim is a cut halfling. Probably has spent most of his life throwing steel against steel. The thing about Gim, though, is unlike a lot of blacksmiths, Gim is not one of these people that kind of is gruff or talks like he's seen some shit or anything like that. Gim does, in fact, carry the stereotypical halfling disposition with him into his work. So when you were approaching him, in between these loud clangs, you see him working on a horseshoe as he's like bending it to the side and heating it up. You can hear some song that he's humming along in his vibrato as he's and you're approaching. He gives a quick glance up to you. Dark, almost raven blacked hair that's curled up all around his head. You can already see that he probably didn't bathe last night, judging from the fact that he's got dirt and smudge all over him still. And leather breeches on. He doesn't wear a shirt when he's blacksmithing, but you can see that he's got off to the side, looks like he's got a fur cloak that's hung up nearby if he gets cold. You can see his breath as he's just clanking away, but he looks up at you and gives a small grin before he sets it aside and starts rubbing his hands and goes, your bear trap, right? The bear trap?
Yeah. How's it looking? Is it working?
It was
again?
fine. That was an easy fix. There wasn't really anything wrong with it. I just had to clean it. Here you are. And he reaches down and is, yeah, no. It's grim business, but the truth of the matter is you've got to clean this or animal bits get stuck in the mechanism. That's why it wasn't popping. And he hands it over to you.
Thanks. I'm better at cleaning my own person than other items. But
you don't really feel like cleaning it. One of the things that I used to do when I was lazy back when I was younger is I would just throw it into a fire for a little bit. Sometimes that just burns the flesh right out of the gear mechanisms.
Right. I'll try that next time. Or I'll just bring it back to you since you did such a lovely job on it this time. Look at this thing. It's gleaming.
Yes, well, it's because I've destroyed many a bear trap by burning them in the fires to get rid of the flesh and the locking mechanisms. So figure I have something to make up for. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. Thank you, man.
All right. Is Merrick back? Has he returned yet?
No, actually, Tyler's is sending us out to go find what happened to him. Hopefully he's not dead. We think he might be dead.
You see, Gim looks crestfallen by that. His demeanor changes for a second. And he sets down the hammer and he goes, What do you mean?
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said the dead part. He's missing. He hasn't come back yet.
Sylvain walks by, having got her cloak from her room, and her sword is strapped. You see the hilt popping out from under it, and she walks by, and as Gordon says missing, she goes, presumed dead, and keeps walking.
You see Gim, look at Gim's face. He just kind of rubs his nose as it's so cold. He's starting to run a little bit. He just kind of, will you please tell me what you find? I hope he's all right. I don't...
You don't what?
If you see him, just tell him if he comes back safe, he doesn't have to pay me back.
All right.
All right.
I mean, if he doesn't come back safe, he's not going to be able to pay you back. But I say that under my breath.
Okay. Yeah, picks up the hammer again, and he looks at the two of you a little worried, and he goes back to the horseshoe, puts it into a clamp, and starts trying to bend it back into a horseshoe shape.
I catch up. I've finished folding the tapestry and putting that away.
You put it on the pile with the other ones.
In the nice stack.
Mhm.
Yes.
These ancient tapestries that tell the story of the people who once lived here that are probably of historical and lore significance.
But make really good blankets.
Snuggies.
And they somehow become hung up in the room that they might be taken down by Snuggies. And no, it isn't magic. It is Phaedra Margelda. And so they're just once again the last one out the door to join, although it doesn't seem like they didn't exactly have any equipment. They have a bag with a couple of supplies and, more importantly, a book. And they join.
Okay. So with that, what is the plan? Are you headed into town now?
To go see, was it Vadith?
Vadith. It's Vadyth.
Yes, nailed it.
Vadith is she/her, an orc, one of the only orc currently holding political office, at least in the town of Sevenraven. She is known for being a grounding presence with the other council members. She is kind of a no-nonsense, and also the one that the Stalkers have the most engagement with. She seems to have a fondness for the order, while the other council members seem to appreciate all of you, but are a little uneasy talking to all of you.
I don't know why. I'm diplomatic as hell.
I can hold a conversation decently well.
They
All right, shall we?
let us.
I just picture all right, shall we? It's kind of barking over you. You all, to give you a good image of what Sevenraven looks like, the perch is positioned just outside the large stone walls that surround the village or the town itself. And the stone walls have done quite well all these years protecting this township as it is. Was constructed as a joint effort between all of the kinfolk that live here in Sevenraven as a way of protecting the community. It has had to have been teared down and adjusted from time to time as the population grew over time, 3 centuries and all, you know. But for the most part, Sevenraven looks like a town that is an odd mix of ancient and new because of this. Also a site that's probably not that unusual these days in Ravenland. The township itself, as I said, hosts a population of about 460 people. And there is, of course, like some well-known towns, a main street that just kind of courses like a central vein right through the center of town and out to the south. Another one to the north and east and west as well. Those entryways, there are quarters to each side of the town, but for the most part, it's just residential. There's not a big trade district here yet. There is a couple of establishments, though. There is a stables called Kinwicker Stables, owned by Annie Kinwicker, if you would like to know. You all have had associations with her. It's been in her family for 2 generations. She inherited it from her husband when he took fever and died, and now she is running it herself. There is the Little Griffin Inn, which is owned by Jonik, a half-elf. So somebody that Phaedra and Sylvain have definitely spotted. But the curious thing about the Little Griffin Inn, it is well known for its house specialty of, wait for it, carrot pancakes. One of the things that it is very well known for. The last place is a bit of an infamous spot because the man who runs it happens to be Tylus's ex-boyfriend. And they are not on speaking terms. They do not like each other very much. The man is named Mason. The tavern is called the Knight and Bard. He's he kind of resembles, he's about the same age as Tylus. You don't know when that relationship happened, but it has to have been in the past couple of years. It's not that long. But Tylus doesn't speak of him at all, but Mason is well known throughout Seven Raven for the fact that his house specialty at this tavern is a rowan berry liqueur that has become very, very popular here in Seven Raven and is typically the night spot for anybody who is just getting off of their chores and duties for the day. Moving through the central town, as you are popping through, you can see some of the homes here. The one thing that is interesting too is that the council members do not have larger homes than everybody else. The council is elected to their seats every 4 years, and everybody basically is up to be elected if you've got a good idea. There's no nobility in Seven Raven. It takes you some weaving through some of the heavy crowds that have woken up in the morning and are going about their duties. But when you enter into the main streets, walking in the triad that you all are, it's pretty easy to spot you guys, particularly with the large wolfkin walking by you. Everyone acknowledging that y'all are Mist Stalkers. Most people give y'all a wide berth. It takes about a good, crisp 10-minute walk before you find yourselves at the doorstep of a large wooden cottage. The door swings widely open. As you see a woman, an orc, she stands about 6'4", and is very heavy set. She's wearing this thick bodice that's keeping it all together, just kind of this big dress. She is one of the few orcs in town that has taken a serious liking to some of the fashion senses that other kin have brought to Seven Raven. And she seems to prefer wearing these big gowns alongside the other the jewelry and whatnot that she keeps up in her hair. She does have, of course, the thick tusks that are just jutting out from underneath the bottom tongue at the bottom of her jaw here, and her skin is this sort of deep, rich mustard yellow with these big green eyes. Stares out at all of you as she opens the door and looks at everyone and says, "What? What do you want?"
Oh, you missed us. Get it? Missed. I'm hilarious.
I got it.
And Sylvain walks in.
You muscle past her and she says, "Oh, all right. Come on."
Good morning, ma'am. It's nice to see you.
Closes the door behind you. As you enter, you can tell she's brewing something over in sort of the kitchen area. This is one large room, so her bed is visible, as well as sort of like the areas where guests can seated, as well as where you can see where food is being prepared. There's a heavy vapor that's collected on the ceiling here, and a warm fire crackling in the fireplace. She rubs her hands a little bit. All along the walls, you can see artifacts of her culture. Orc weapons and old insignias brought up here from the orcs that first came to Seven Raven. Many of them were nomadic and were traveling in large groups. And so you see sort of an honoring of the cultures in which she came from, adorning all of the walls. Some of these weapons are wicked and very well kept as they are kind of crossed up onto the wall. You don't know if she's ever had to or knows how to use them, but you do know that none of the council members mess with her. She has a reputation in town. She rubs her hands a little bit and says, "I'm guessing something's happened to Merrick, is that right?" "You Mist Stalkers. I don't understand your trade very well." And she throws the cloth down and she says, "What do you need from me? What can I do to help?"
Tell us what you told him.
She goes and slides into a chair and leans back a little bit. Says, "There is a farmer girl. I don't remember her name. She reported seeing some kind of creature just to the west of here, near the edge of the forest. At first, we thought it was some kind of, child telling us children's stories. But we wanted to be sure. So we sent a few people out to sort of walk the length of the forest, as it were. Do some exploring, as it were. Some guards, in fact. 2 men. Only one of them came back and reported that some huge beast with the face of a man had torn him apart. That's when we came and spoke to Tyler's. Tyler summoned Merrick. I told Merrick the same story I just told you. Merrick asked a bunch of questions that didn't make any sense to me, talked to the rest of the council, and then left. What else do you need?
Sylvain kind of is looking in, I guess, rapt joy at the different weapons and everything that are hanging on the walls, and not just as weapons. Like, you can tell she has an actual appreciation for what this orc has gathered. Those weird questions, and she'll turn around. Do you remember what they were? The ones Merrick asked you.
Were any feathers left behind? Did you see any? Did the guard report any? How did he phrase it? Like holes in the mud around footprints, anything like that? All sorts of strange. Didn't fully understand it myself.
Were there feathers?
The guard didn't say there were any.
Did he say anything beyond beast with the face of a man? Because that could be like 20 things.
No, but I'll tell you this. He died 3 days ago of poison.
Was he hurt?
They pulled a barb out of his leg. Apparently it struck him when he was running. Still have it. If you want to take a look.
I would love to. Yes.
I kept it here. Merrick was asking me about it as well. He gets up. She moves over to the kitchen, pulls open a chest, and says, there it is. She pulls out what looks like a wicked-looking barb that's been hollowed out in the center. It looks like some kind of the way a snake's fang might look, where it actually is hollowed out, a delivery method for venom, not poison. You look at this, and whatever this is, indeed, is some kind of... It's not from a defensive mechanism from the looks of it. It looks like it's broken off. If you want to make lore checks, here you go.
Okie
Yes, I would
dokie.
love to. Thank you.
All right. Anybody who wants to make a lore check? Here's how we do it. First roll of the game. All right. You're going to take your white dice, which are your attribute dice. Then this is the normal color dice. If you're using different colored six-sided, that's fine. But normally you would take your white dice, which are attribute dice. Then you're going to add whatever your lore skill is. So your lore will tell you what attribute it keys off of, which should be wits, I believe. So you're going to roll red dice equal to your lore skill. Does this make sense so far?
White dice equal to wits.
And then red dice equal to lore.
Right.
And that's what you're rolling for this check. Sixes are successes. Nothing else counts. Don't worry about skull and crossbones yet.
Ominous.
You want sixes or cross swords if you're using Forbidden Lands dice.
Question. If you don't have a lore, anything in lore,
you can just roll wits.
Just
roll wits. Okay.
I'm pushing.
You're going to push. So what Sam is doing is called pushing. Sam didn't succeed. So Sam has decided to push the roll. Did you?
I'm running up the score. Yes.
How many? Okay, so illustrate to us what just happened. So you rolled and you got how many successes?
Yes. So Phaedra Markelta is lore-oriented, if you will. So they roll 6 wits and 4 lore dice.
Good lord.
Goodness.
Yes, Lord. That is the idea.
Okay.
So they got on their skill die 1 success, and they got on an attribute 1 bane. That stuck with them, so they only re-rolled 8 of their dice. The pool less the success and the bane. They then got a further 2 successes on the re-roll, but they will take that and 2 more 1s, which now count as harm to their wit, but also as willpower that will later power their spells.
So a summary of that is simply this. When you roll dice, 6s are successes. If you roll 1s on the Forbidden Lands dice, those are called banes. On the Forbidden Lands dice, those look like skull and crossbones. Banes don't mean anything unless you push the roll. If you push the roll, you get to re-roll your dice, except any banes that you rolled that first time around. Those you have to keep if you're going to push the roll, if you're going to try again. You can also keep your successes. Those, if you rolled any successes, you can keep those as well. But most of the time, you're pushing because you didn't succeed. You set those banes aside and roll again. If you succeed or not, whatever, how many number of ones you rolled or banes that you rolled, those damage whatever attribute you were using. You take that as damage, which can manifest in you getting frustrated and irritated if it's like wits or empathy damage, or you're getting fed up with people, or agility if you stumbled over something, or strength if you pulled something like that. However, the reward system in this is if you take damage from pushing rolls and from banes, you gain a willpower for each. Is it each point, Sam, of damage you take, or is it just one?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's each point. So there's a risk reward system in place. Either way, you don't get screwed over completely if you get baned up. So, Sam, you got 3 successes total with 2 banes.
3 banes, 3 successes.
Oh boy. So 3 banes. So 3 points of damage to your wits. Here's how I'm going to. This is the way I'm going to work this into the narrative. Sam, Thaydree's looking at this spine in their hand, and there's something familiar about it. You're not sure what it is, but it's causing this sort of icy, creeping sensation up your spine as you're holding it. And you start feeling a sense of dread. At about the same time, the memory floods over you of being young, out on a windy hillside, a mentor standing next to you, being frustrated with you because you're not paying attention to your lesson, asking you questions, and then the noise. You remember the noise. You remember the desperation on her face. A woman who is the only time you ever saw her frightened. A woman that you have always thought of as made out of steel. The only time you saw her rattled as the thing came at both of you. She was caught unaware, as you were too. Much of what happened is blocked out in your mind. You have brief flashes of sense memory, of the fear in the back of your throat, the need to throw up from the terror, the sound of her screaming, the scent of ember, that burning in the back of your nose as fire swirled around you from the sorcery, the shouting of the arcane language as magic was being pulled all around you, her cries from the whiplash, the magical backlash that occurred when she was defending you and her from the Manticore that was trying to kill both of you. You take 3 points of damage to your wits as you can all see Thaydree's hand involuntarily trembling a little bit as you can see recognition on their face. As this is happening, though, we also had a roll from Sylvain. So what did you get, Sylvain?
I got 1 success.
Okay, so Sylvain, you might have had suspicions, but when she mentioned a beast with a man's face, and you looked at that thing in Thaydree's hand, that 1 success was enough for you. Oh, that's a Manticore. That is absolutely a barb from a Manticore tail.
Which would register probably on her face, but at the same time, she sees Thaydree just like basically seizing up and shaking. And in about 2 steps, because this isn't a huge room, right. Sylvain is over there and has pulled Thaydree's fingers off of it and taken it from her. Okay. Which would look almost caring until she looks at Thaydree and says, "You don't get to always play with everything." And she's, investigating it.
Fuck off. It's bad if this is a Manticore.
Yes, it is.
With here's what you would know. Sylvain, what you would know about manticores is they are large beast creatures with the faces of men. You know that much. You also know that they are in possession of some pretty vicious, venomous spines at the end of a clubbed tail. Being the sorcerer here and just entrenched in lore in your brain, Thaydri, what you know with 3 successes, what you would know is that manticores are demons. They are a type of demon and are a reminiscent of the demon flood that happened in the ancient times before the blood mist occurred. And they are very deadly. And you do, with 3 successes, especially after you push the roll, I'm going to give you this. And this is important. It's something that Merrick may not have known. But the thing is, and this is going to reflect the 3 successes on top of your 3 damage. But the thing is, even though that day terrified you, and your brain, locking itself into a mode of protecting itself, has forgotten a lot of the horrible events of that day, except for some of the sense, and waking up afterwards and finding out that your mentor had been injured but had saved both of you. There were instances during your later studies where you couldn't help yourself. You had to pick up and know more. You had to know more about this creature. And in your studies, you remembered distinctly that manticores have a weakness. And it is, in fact, their tail. A manticore's tail is packed full of poison glands that it uses when it dislodges these spines that regenerate so quickly. It uses for ranged attacks. However, if you were to cause damage to the poison glands in the tail, it causes the poison to actually flood the manticore's body, poisoning the manticore. They're powerful creatures, but they can be susceptible to their own venom. Specifically, I should be saying venom, though it would have the effect of essentially taking poison damage.
I suppose this, I look to the vial with the barb that Sylvain's holding, tells us what we need to know. Thank you for your time.
She nods and says, well, I hope you find him. And I hope if you encounter the thing that did all of this, I hope you kill it.
That's
There,
the
of course,
job.
will be pay if you do. Well, I'll pay you whatever that I was going to be paying Marek as well, coming out of the town's coffers as always. The usual fare.
You're gracious.
Well, all right then. Time to go kill a manticore.
The 3 of you stepping out from the house. Door closing behind you. What will you do? What is your next course of action as you all step out into the autumn morning? The sun is now up, but it is still struggling to fight through the gray clouds that linger overhead. The town is bustling.
Tyler asked us to go back and tell him what we learned before we left. And by the time we finished that, it'll have burned most of this morning. First daylight's probably the best time. Or we'll get out just to set up camp again.
Right. All right. Sounds like a plan. Back home
Right.
then.
So you're heading back to the perch?
Yeah, check in.
Does Sylvain still have the vial?
Maybe.
Does Sylvain still have the vial?
Well, in all the confusion, nobody really asked for her to give it back.
That's what I thought. It's just that little piece of the brain that tracks where things are, where the queen is hidden.
You may or may not have seen a vaguely fang-shaped object going into the pouch that she carries.
It's a distinctive lump.
Well, in that case, we can cut back to the perch where you were all before a very grim-looking Hylas, even more so when you inform him what you discovered. He's thinking about it pretty carefully, and he says, Manticore is a creature that's capable of fighting more than one person at a time. If Merrick found it, there's a good chance he is gone. We need you to kill it then. And if you can find Merrick's body, bring it back. If not, he just lets that linger.
I'm sorry, Tylis.
It's what we all signed up for. He leans back in the chair. He said, this isn't going to be the last time any of us experiences this.
Well, we better get a good night's sleep then, because I have a feeling that we're going to have to get up early.
I'll pack rations for you.
And she puts a distinctive hate on the word early.
He gets up out of the chair and he stops and he says, we can't go on like this.
Like what?
Silence hangs in the air for a moment, almost as if he's debating on even answering you, before he finally says, we can't just linger here at the perch, waiting for people to come pay us to go kill things. Losing Merrick, if we've lost Merrick, is a blow to the order. There's not many of us left. There was never many of us to begin with, and we're not exactly recruiting right now. And a lot of you are the last new recruits to come in. There hasn't been any sense. Nobody wants to face these things. This is a death sentence for all of us if we can't find a way forward. We can't go on like this. But first, kill the Manticore. Bring its head back if you can. Let the people of Seven Raven see it.
Remind them why they keep us around.
Let everybody know the services that we provide. And any other demon motherfucker out there, if they want to come wandering around this town, maybe they'll have the good sense to stay away.
And plague some other town.
Well then, that would certainly help us get out a little bit more. You can see with the jaw clench that he doesn't necessarily mean that, Phaedry, but I'm not going to have you roll empathy to know that right now he is bearing a lot of anger as he's talking to all of you. And he stands up and says, I'm going to pack your rations. Go get rest. No practices for today. And he leaves the three of you in the main hall as he returns to the kitchens in the back.
He feels guilty because he let Merrick go out alone, and he should. It was a mistake. And Merrick's probably dead because of it.
Then it's best you don't say that to him, isn't it?
No, it's best he know.
He knows.
But there's a time and place. I guess we'll see if he ever tries to do it again. But we won't.
No, I reckon we won't.
Stick together on this, or we will all be We'll see you all in the morning.
All right. See you in the morning.
Okay. Morale at a bit of a low. The three of you separate for the day. The quarter days pass, and the cold wind sweeping through the castle is the only company the rest of you keep as you think about what's going to be happening tomorrow. Tomorrow, y'all are setting out at sunrise to hunt down this thing, track it, and kill it where you find it, assuming you can find it. Outside of Seven Raven is all of Ravenland in its wild glory. Who knows what's waiting for you as soon as you leave the perch? But you do all know this as night falls and the time starts to approach. Merrick is a jackass and has a tendency of telling jokes that only he thinks are funny. And the audacity to continue laughing at it, maybe even harder when he notices nobody else is laughing. And his manners are awful. And every now and then, he really just says crass comments about people, particularly people he's been with. He doesn't necessarily make the best company. But from experience, you all know for a fact that this jackass of a Miss Stalker has on a couple of occasions thrown himself in front of danger for each one of you. Gloated about it afterwards, much to your chagrin, but has, in fact, selflessly thrown himself in front of danger for you time and time again. And that, I think, is a good spot for us to pause for our break. So why don't we take a 10-minute break? And when we come back, the Miss Stalkers are going to set out. Y'all will be headed outwards towards the Arena Forest, which is just to the west of Seven Raven. A forest that has all sorts of culture still living inside of it, but all manners of beasties that have been roaming free, unchecked, where supposedly along the tree lines was the last place Merrick was spotted. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in 10 minutes. Welcome back to Ravenland. Let's get back into the game tonight because we have a Manticore to kill. And the Miss Stalkers are hunting one of their own that has been lost in this monster's quest to slaughter this monster. You've all received information that Merrick went missing somewhere to the west, just outside the perch in Seven Raven, on the borders of the forest. Jake, let's go ahead and get the map. Seven Raven being located just to the northeast of Lake Clay. This blue dots here represent hexes that you have all explored and traveled. And I will be adding blue dots as you all continue your journey. At the start of the day, we're going to start using this map when we do our hex crawls the moment you journey outwards. But first, you guys have decided y'all need horses. So Jake, let's go back to the regular display and we will enter into the town of Seven Raven. That early morning, the sun is only just started to rise and the town is only just starting to wake up. However, it's true to form, even though it's incredibly early in the morning, Annie is always up and wake and is feeding horses in the early morning hours. When you all arrive at the stables in Seven Raven, she is already inside the stables herself with a big, thick, wiry brush, dressed in like leather breeches and a leather vest. She has her hair pulled back. She just has this big bundle of blonde curls that are starting to turn white. She has just pulled back onto the top of her head, whispering something to the horse with a big smile on her face. As you can see dust just coming off the mane of this horse, this big brush. When you're all approaching, she glances at all of you as you enter into the small little compound of her stables. Her stables is located just inside the south gate of Seven Raven, making it probably the closest business to the perch. In fact, you guys walk right into the gates and just a few feet away is the stables up to about maybe 50 feet to your left. She's standing there, acknowledges all of you with the brush and drops it to the ground, takes a pail, looks at everybody and says, "Are you heading out? Is that what you're here for?"
Yeah, indeed we are, ma'am.
Well, I'll
How's
get
my
them ready
beetle
for you.
doing?
What was that?
How's my beetle doing? Is he sleeping well?
Oh, he's just fine. Just fine. He's a fine steed. You've got a fine steed.
I
She
know.
takes the bucket and sets it down. You can hear it slopping around as she brushes her hands off and says, now, I should tell you that if your blacksmith doesn't hurry along with those horseshoes that I need, I'm going to have to storm up there and give him a good wallop.
He might like it.
You think
Yeah, and
so?
when you do that, can you make sure we're there to watch?
Oh, yeah.
It's free
I can do
entertainment.
that. She smiles at you. I don't see any problems with that. So, what can I do for you then? You want which the lodge if you're taking your horses out then?
Right.
It's been a while. They probably need to stretch.
We'll get them saddled up for you.
Phaedry has made a beeline
Mm-hmm.
for their horse, and like at this, by the length of this conversation, is probably just face to nose with their hands on either side of this chestnut gelding's face, just telling Jasper how much they love him and
He's
how
doing that thing
beautiful
where
he is.
he's excited to see you. He's doing that thing because he can hear people moving around behind him, and it's also feeding time. So he's kind of glancing back over his left side and doing that thing horses do where they swing their heads all the way back to the right and maybe didn't gauge how close you were to them because you're so much smaller than them. So it just kind of bumps you a little bit as he swings his head back around. But just takes a step in place. And kind of you can hear and feel the great gouts of hot air coming out of his nostrils as he just kind of sniffs on you a little bit, just probably smelling the breakfast foods that were saturating the air inside the keep this morning when you were leaving the perch.
Message received. Now is the time of bribery, and I will produce the apple per our agreement.
Okay. Oh man, yeah. The gouts of hot air just go,
All right.
and then big lips just.
yes,
And that
okay.
you see the apple just work around in his mouth as the horse has a delightful breakfast right in front of you. She comes back around leading two horses for both of you. Gordon, you see yours. Your horse, Beetle's a little bit beefier than some of the standard horses here, kind of needing to be in order to handle the wolfkin that rides on the back. But he comes leading over. She hands you the reins, and then she also passes you, Sylvain, the reins as well. Pats the flanks of the horse and says, they've been fine. Nothing to report.
So Sylvain's horse is white.
Okay.
All white. And while Phaedry and Gordon are talking and discussing horse things, Sylvain is looking like right and looking left, and then like going in for the nuzzle, and she's like, "Oh, Binky, who's a good boy then?" And just doing like the little snuffly thing you do with the noses, because horse noses are the best.
Yeah. Quick side story. My friend Jared owned a horse ranch when I was a kid, and one of the horses had gone blind, and the owners loved him so dearly that they decided to keep him and care for him for the rest of his life. And that was the friendly, like every time he sensed you were near his stall, he came right up and stuck his face out because he loved affection so much. So if you were talking to somebody, he would knock your ass over with his nose. If he knew you were standing there, you would just get bumped hard. He would just refuse. He's one of those horses where if you wrapped your entire arms like around his entire head, he'd be fine with that. That's all right with him.
Oh, baby.
Just big hug. Good, buddy. All right. One by one, you all come back into contact with your beloved mounts. And they look pretty well taken care of. They look like they've been well fed, well cleaned, well rested. The stables here are... Annie, you all know because it was only about 3 years ago when she lost her husband, Clyde. But the thing is Annie has thrown herself 100% into managing these stables, and they look better than they've ever looked. She seems a little sad to be handing the reins off to all of you, treating every horse, whether it's hers or not, like they're her children leaving the school. And she hands the reins to each and every one of you. She says, I'll be waiting for them when they get back.
I don't understand why. He's a demon in horse form. And I keep petting. I know you say that they're lovely and never a trouble at all. You don't have to lie.
As you're saying this, your horse is looking everywhere in your body for another apple. There's got to be another one there. Like, nose goes under your arm and is kind of like sniffing around. Okay, that's not it. And just kind of like goes anywhere else. Yeah.
Not there, you're not going to find it.
You can see little like hay particles floating through the air as the sunlight starts to break through the clouds as each one of you are led to the gates. She just pulls them open. Stay safe now, wherever you're headed.
We will make an attempt.
Gives you a big grin as you all
The best
leave.
I can promise you, honestly.
You kind of add that addendum at the end, and a little bit of worry and concern on her face.
Sylvan, could I trouble you? And I get just a little near in the sort of boost.
As she puts her hands down.
You're very gracious.
Yeah. And she flings herself up on, not super gracefully, but you know, with the joy of someone who's getting to ride a horse, specifically their horse.
You gain some altitude, settle into the saddle, looking around. You can see over the fences now that surround the stables. And you are tradition. Annie leads your horse, kind of walks your horses with you on the back. She leads them out to the gate and pushes the gates open and just stands by. And you can hear her muttering something to each horse as it walks by. Something along the lines, you protect them now. You be good. You'll be good. And she watches you all, kind of just doesn't head back in. She watches you all leave the stable and just watches after you as the three of you make your way out. It's early morning, quarter day, so you've started your journey. My friends, it is time to jump into the journey mechanic of Forbidden Lands. If we can have the map again, please, Jake. So the way this is going to work, there's going to be some survival rolls being made here. Now, the good news is, as I said before, these dots represent areas of Ravenland that the Miststalkers have already scouted and are familiar with. So you won't need to roll to lead the way through these areas at all, meaning you don't have to worry about getting lost or having a rather unpleasant experience along the journey. You don't have to worry about any possible mishaps that take place. However, it doesn't mean you're alone out here. And even in the outskirts of Seven Raven, who knows what might be waiting for you? The unique, rich culture of Seven Raven is, as I said, unique to Ravenland. Outside the walls of Ravenland, everything is much different. So, let me go ahead and ask, which direction are you all headed? You know that Merrick was last spotted towards the west in the tree line. You can go north, or you can pretty much go northwest as you're heading into the trees. The only other option, of course, is to just go straight west and try to head for this hex here. This all becomes unexplored territory. Which direction would you all like to go?
I think heading northwest through the hex we already know is probably the best, considering that he was last seen towards the west.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's one of us and he would have the same training as we do, he might have taken the same path that we would pick out.
Okay.
So anything left behind, any signs of a violent struggle or anything, we'd be, a little bit more following his path.
Okay. In which case, if y'all are all in agreement there, then we will mark you all entering into this hex for the first quarter day. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay. So then, let me find out, ask one of you, who would like to be the lookout for the group as y'all are journeying? Lookout rolls are a scouting check. Who would like to volunteer? And do keep in mind that if you're raising your hand, I cannot see you because I'm on the map screen.
Oh my God, I've
Yes.
been muted for a long time. I wouldn't mind being the lookout unless someone else really wants to, or unless someone else has a much higher scouting, whichever. I actually don't have scouting, but I have a
Absolutely no.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't have scouting.
Yeah. So numbers on the table in general, because they're probably going to come up a lot.
Mhm.
I have a wits of 6 and a survival of 2. It should be 2, Eric, and so should my crafting. I'm sorry, I gummed that
That's okay.
up. But I have no scouting, so I can rely on my wits macro, and that gets a reasonable length of the way sometimes, but it is going to break over time.
And my wits is lower. My wits is 3, and I don't have scouting.
Okay. So it sounds to me like
I have a
We're
4, but yeah.
Do you have any points, either of you, in survival?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I have
What's
1
your
in
wits plus
survival.
survival? Okay.
My wits
So
plus
wits-
survival would be 5.
Okay.
And mine is
Cool.
4.
okay.
All
So that's decent.
Yeah.
For those 2 scores,
Okay.
which means yes, indeed, Thaydri, it sounds like the sorcerer is going to be the one that's keeping a lookout.
Yep. I think if I make scouting rolls and one of y'all make survival rolls, those will be good. Cool.
All right,
I will
then
scoop
here we-
this, and we don't have to survival this one.
As C3PO likes to say, Sam, here we go again. All right.
So don't roll anything on the encounters table, Eric.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Mm? Oh no. What is that?
no.
Oh,
You
no.
rolled a terrible.
Okay. So for the viewers who are watching at home, so much of the Forbidden Lands game system is generated as you play. Everything from encounters to the journey rules to things you discover, and the map comes to life in front of you as you all play together. You can mark down, you can basically create stickers and put them on hexes so that you know, hey, we found a castle here, or an ancient grave, or a dungeon, or something like that. Encounters work the same way. You don't know what you're going to encounter. I, as a GM, have no idea what's going to happen once they start on their journey. That being said,
Why are you laughing?
it's early morning, and you all journey outside to the northwest of Seven Raven. It hasn't been very often that any of you journey too far outside the city limits of Seven Raven. You don't have to journey far outside the township itself. So much of town life is still centered here. You haven't had to journey too far into the woods or the mountains or anything. So this is a fresher experience than some of y'all are used to having in the past couple of years. It's almost you rolled a 0 on your scouting check. Is that correct? You didn't sense this was, you didn't hear anything or anything like that?
Correct.
Okay. It is upon you.
Oh no.
Before you realize what's happening, all of your horses begin to neigh in intense anxiety. It happens about 2 hours outside the journey, and y'all are moving again through what looks like a beautiful landscape. Again, the Ravenlands has mostly been untouched by civilization for the past 300 years. So the lands have become quite wild. The grass is quite tall. The paths that were once carved through here by traveling armies and merchants, all grown over and vanished. And it's because of the wildness of the landscape, those great green tall grasses and trees, and the fog in the early morning, that you almost missed it as it was happening. The 3 of you reacting to the sudden anxiety in your animals as y'all are journeying horseback towards the woods, spotted it all at about the same time. And there's almost a sense of disbelief and horror to each of you when you spot this from happening. Jake, we can go back to the main screen now.
Oh boy.
This is fine.
Everything's fine.
As the morning fog is burning off, you begin to realize that some of that fog is in fact not burning off at all. And instead, a copperish color begins to swell in the fog around you all. It takes a few moments to realize what it is you're looking at. But Phaedry, being the lore guru of the group, instantly recognizes what is beginning to emerge from the fog that collected on the grounds, rolling through the tall grasses. A thing that hasn't been seen in 6 years and that is not supposed to be here.
Oh, no.
You see, Phaedry, this red vapor beginning to snake through the
my
grass,
Oh no!
falling along the ground as this reddish fog begins to roll towards all of you. Now, here's something that's fantastic. Y'all are all on horseback. Let me just say, this was the best time in the world to roll this encounter and not be traveling on foot. Your horses want to bolt. I'm going to have each and every one of you make a roll.
Mm-hmm. Animal handling.
It's animal handling. Because if you don't, they're simply going to panic and do whatever the hell.
Is there an attribute that we would add to that? Strength?
Empathy, unfortunately.
It's empathy and animal handling.
Oh, good.
Yeah, great.
Good.
Oh yeah, it's
Good.
not good for any of us.
Good.
But also, I like to hope that the horse's instinct is actually fairly in line in this moment.
I would like to add the willpower D10 thingy. How does that work?
You wanted, I'm sorry, you wanted to do what now?
The D10 that you said we can add to a roll.
Yes,
The
you
story
can spend
point?
the inspiration point that was given to us. You can
Yeah.
turn it. Yeah.
So do I
wanna
just
do
add that in the dice?
You would add that to your dice pool for the animal handling check. Now, I do have some bad news.
Uh-oh.
Oh, more?
Because this, yes, because the scouting roll failed, what is revealed is that it has surrounded all of you. It's not just
Oh,
coming from one
crap.
direction, it is circled around all of you.
Oh my god.
So
Anyone can fly? Can anyone fly?
your options are essentially
Yes, but not with my horse.
Essentially what you're going to have to do is make, in this case, you're going to have to make rolls to charge through the blood mist.
Oh my god.
You're going to have to either try to get through it and be engulfed by it and just try to make it out the other side, or you are just going to have to sit here and wait to see what happens. But it has
Okay.
enveloped the lot of you.
I think run.
Yeah.
Run.
Oh yeah.
Phaedry kicks to gallop, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we make that roll, that animal handling roll.
Go ahead and make an animal handling check for each of you. You need one
Okay.
success.
And I'm adding my D10 as well.
Are you?
You can push the roll. I did on my itsy bitsy teeny weeny macro. And I definitely did Bane one of those two, empathy, but the other is a
Oh,
success.
dear.
The other is a success. The other.
Okay, but I can't push if I have no successes
Yes,
or
you can.
no
You can.
banes, right?
Yes, you can.
You
You can
can?
always
Okay.
push once. You
Okay,
can
because I
always
don't
push once.
same.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just re-roll the
Okay.
same. Okay.
Yeah.
I pushed
Yes,
one
thank
success,
goodness.
no banes.
No
One
Bane?
success.
How'd you do, Kelly?
One success, no bane.
Oh
Woo!
my god. All right.
And my
so-
success was on my inspiration die.
Hell
amazing. So
Wait,
here's
what number was on the inspiration die?
7.
Nice.
that's 2 successes, I believe. Let me double check.
No,
Because
that
a
one's
D10.
one. It's a
Oh, it is
2
one,
and
yeah.
8. Yeah. Is why I
Okay,
checked.
so here's what happens next. You all, you make eye contact. The three of you realize you're having the exact same thought. Fucking run. And without a second thought, your horses seem to acknowledge what it is you're trying to do. The animal handling check was to make sure that you all went in the same direction and didn't just scatter to the winds like your horses just wanted to leave. Tearing off towards the direction you were all headed, you spurn your horses into action and they charge forward. And each of you instinctively takes a deep breath and summons all of the courage you've got as you, for the first time in your lives, charge headlong into the red crimson vapor that was supposedly gone from this land. The legendary blood mist. You all charge into it. The three of you from behind would be seen just disappearing and becoming dark shapes as you all charge in. Here's what happens next. The moment you all become engulfed by the vapor, I need each and every one of you to make an insight roll. So whatever your insight
would that be
skill is,
wits?
it's empathy, I believe.
So empathy?
Is it wits?
It's
Okay.
wits.
It's wit.
Wits? Okay, good.
So
Yeah.
if so I just roll wits if I don't have the actual insight.
That's correct.
score. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna push that roll.
Is
Oh my god. I
there's
didn't
nothing
think
else
about
we
that.
can put into this? No like resources can go into this?
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
Not
Oh.
really.
Oh, no. No success, 1 bane.
No success, 2 bane.
Did you? No, the banes only activate if you push the roll.
Right.
I pushed the
Right.
roll.
Okay, so
Ah.
you. Oh, really? So okay, so how many banes did you? Now, keep in mind, each bane you're getting is giving you willpower points. So keep that in mind. That's going to feed your willpower pool. However, I'm gonna ask Sylvain, how many points of damage did your wits just take? 2?
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing on wits?
Me?
Yeah.
I've still got 2 left.
Okay, cool. And Aliza, Gordon took damage to wits as well, correct? Because you rolled
No,
a
I
bane?
didn't. Yeah, but I
didn't
didn't push the roll. Yeah. I think I'm just
Okay.
going to take the failure.
Okay. Before we started the game session, we decided because pretty much everyone in this group kind of agrees we're not down for violence against animals of any kind, and I'm a big proponent of that. So we're not going to do what the rules would call for here, which is of course every living creature to make certain saving throws, because I've already seen the Artax scene and I don't need to see that again. And instead, what happens is, real quick, Sam, Thadri, how did they do?
2 successes on the first roll.
Okay, in that case, Sylvain and Gordon, you take 1 point of damage to your empathy, both of you.
Oh, good. Is there a way to track the loss of the attributes, or you just have to keep notes?
On the character sheet, there's like circles that you would just mark down and be able to do that. Are you using the online character thing? Yeah, in which case you would actually just sort of subtract it from your attributes. You just kind of click it down.
Or it wasn't letting me do that, but that's okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, mine too. I'll just make a note.
Yep. Oh, good.
Yeah, just keeping notes and what your maximum is and how much damage you've taken. You all charge through the blood mist. Those of you who took points of damage to your empathy feel a soul-crushing sadness and a longing for things that you have all lost in your lives, whatever it may be. The things that you've left behind, or the things that you've had to sacrifice or were taken from you. All of that begins to seep into your psyche. Each of you feels your hearts kind of sink in your chest. And a few moments pass before you emerge out to the other side. When you do, Thadri, you're like looking behind you, and you can see that swirling maelstrom of this reddish vapor moving beyond all of you. But you can clearly see as they emerge from it, they look like they've seen ghosts, your fellow Mist Stalkers. As the two of you emerge, you can feel like you're like the best way to describe this for both of you would be what it probably feels like to have a Dementor attack you. You feel this sort of like joy being sucked out of you. This energy, this vitality of life feels like it was being drained, and you feel intense longings for home, a homesickness. Maybe it's a home that doesn't even exist anymore, or the look of your parents' face when you were a child. Whatever it is, when you all emerge and finally bring the horses to a stop, looking behind you and seeing the mist roll away and disappear into the morning fog, each of you just feels that sort of crushing sadness begins to slowly ebb away as the blood mist vanishes. into the morning fog, evaporating. It's just sort of, you watch it in real time sort of spread out and disappear, and it's gone. A small patch of it from what it looked like.
Which direction did it go in?
It looks like it just dissipated, like it emerged and then vanished again.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't feel too good after that. How are you two holding up? Sylvain? You all right?
I'll be fine. Let's go.
I miss me mum.
Huh.
I don't visit her enough. I make up so many excuses. She lives on the other side of Seven Raven, and I should go see her more often.
Your
She
mom
raised
lives
me.
like that close?
Yeah.
After the Manticore, then.
After the Manticore, I'm gonna give her the biggest hug.
Maybe you'll have a nice breakfast together.
Yeah. You're all invited too.
I would love to. I hand my water bottle to Sylvain. You look like shit.
Thanks, you too. And she takes it and, takes a drink. Why is this water? And she hands it back.
Because it's not always what you want. It's what you need. Have a snack too. Let's get moving.
That was your first 2 hours.
Oh, good.
You just entered into the first hex. So let's go back to the map once more.
This
Clearing-
is fine. This is fine.
By about afternoon, all three of you reach the borders of the woods. Now, again, like the rest of Ravenland, the woods here are completely wild and unkempt. They have shown no signs of civilization having anything to do with these woods. You can see these huge, thick pines and birches, everything growing in here in close quarters. There are some openings that you can travel through, but it's clear from the moment you reach the boundaries of this grand, ancient wood that it is quite thick and it's going to be difficult to travel through. Beautiful, however, if nothing else, especially because you can see flocks and upon flocks of ravens gathering in the northern parts of the forest. It's also worth noting that this forest itself is huge. It takes up a swath of the land here. And the arena forest has secrets of its very own. And it's said that goblins, clans of goblins and elves might live here. But many of you have not journeyed this far to the west before.
I don't.
You have another quarter day's journey, so you don't have to do anything else except for now that you are entering into a hex that you have not explored before. We're going to have to, as soon as Kelly says her thing here in a second, we're going to call upon a journey roll.
No, Sylvain was going to suggest perhaps instead of plunging directly into the forest for our last quarter day, maybe scouting along the forest line, the tree line, to see.
Okay.
Because personally, I don't think that diving headlong into woods with low visibility, as the sun is going down where we don't know where we are, is a great idea.
Also, we just saw a blood mist.
Like 4 hours later, Gordon's like, hey, wait a minute.
That's not right. We should also be maybe scouting for other blood mists popping up. And it would be better to maybe not be in the forest for that. So yeah, I agree. Let's just scout the edge of the forest.
Keep our eyes out and see if we see any signs of Merrick passing by, where he might have entered the woods.
Or any other signs of Manticore hunting grounds. Doesn't have to just be Merrick. Manticore range reasonably far.
He might be the sign of Manticore hunting grounds. We never know.
A cheery thought.
What do Manticore Footprints look like?
They would be Leonid, wouldn't they?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mhm, so lion
Bodies,
paws.
lion-like bodies, basically.
All right.
Longer fur than you would see on the lion. They almost have like a shag to them, a little bit like a shaggy fur. They do have big, thick manes and very twisted, demonic-looking humanoid faces.
Mhm.
There was something off about that, though. Didn't the guard report holes in the mud near the footprints?
Yes.
And feathers.
No feathers.
No feathers?
No feathers.
No feathers. Okay.
But the holes in the ground next to the footprints, I'll go ahead and clarify. That was what you would see if a creature with large talons at the end of paws might.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
As Miss Stalkers, you guys would have probably put 2 and 2 together on that one.
okay.
That's what the back of my couch looks like. Thanks, cat.
So then I think we're moving from here to due north then, in terms of where we're going on a map.
So
that right,
you're gonna
Heading
head
north.
this way here.
Yeah, along the tree line. Mhm.
Okay, I'll mark that, but I'm gonna redo that because that is terrible opacity.
Mhm.
Give me 1 second. I'll just lighten that up a little bit.
Lighten up, Eric.
I know. I'm sorry. There we go.
I mean, this is
Are
supposed
you
to be
really?
a cheerful game, right?
We're very
Right.
cheerful.
All right, you all journey more up north now. Since you are now going into unexplored territory, I'm going to have to call for a lead the way check. So who would like to take point and lead the group into this area?
If we fail this one, like if we fail the scouting and Eric rolls an encounter, it takes us by surprise like the blood mist. If we fail the survival roll, I don't think we even make it into the hex.
That's correct. You don't actually, you end up having a mishap as you're journeying.
So do we want to maybe throw my like big pool into the survival?
And have somebody else scout.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. So then that means, Thaedra, you take point. Who is going to be keeping lookout? I'm guessing that's going to be our wolfkin. Is that going to be you, Gordon? Are you going to keep a lookout? Or
Sure. That's
whoever
the
wants
scouting
to.
role, right?
Yep, it's a scouting roll.
Yeah.
Question: would the
Yeah.
wolfkin get any bonuses of any kind for smell?
What does
hearing?
your kin talent say?
Oh,
believe-
yeah. I have
believe your
hunting
kin talent is
instincts.
designed for hunting specifically.
Yeah.
Ha
Let me see what exactly it gives me.
I
So
am
you-
helping.
Yes,
Yes,
because
that-
your kin talent can help you find your prey here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that you're probably already very familiar with Merrick's scent. So your kin talent is
Aha.
hunting instincts. The
Yes,
wolfkin have
yes.
a powerful sense of smell and can track their prey for days once they've caught the scent. You can spend a willpower point to designate a person or a creature as your prey. Your prey must be within line of sight, or there must be a scent to follow. The number of willpower points equals the number of days you can follow the prey scent. Now, keep in mind what that means is you don't even have to roll for anything. You just follow the scent, but you have to be able to catch it first. So if you can find any evidence of Merrick or the Manticore, you will be able to flawlessly track it. You just need to be able to burn the willpower points to constantly stay on that trail.
Okay. How many willpower do we start with?
I started you all with 1.
Okay.
Oh, then
And I haven't
have more
gotten
than I thought.
Any
You
more
got another
since
one
then?
because you all had that breakfast,
Oh,
remember?
that's right.
And
And,
yeah, the breakfast
and the blood mist. Right?
and the blood
Mhm.
mist. We have
And
2
when you
more.
break, you get more. That's willpower is super important in Forbidden Lands. It's one of the big currencies that you need to get to like use some of your big abilities, which is why pushing the rolls, it's risky, but sometimes you need willpower.
Okay.
So you take the risk.
So can I, it says prey. Merrick isn't my prey.
He would be your prey, yes. It's not
Okay.
designating him
It
as
just
like something
means
you're gonna-
like,
You're
got it.
He's
It
your
just means
quarry.
like the thing you're looking for.
Yes,
Mhm.
he's your quarry. You're basically stalking him and trying to find him.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I also saw actually that might not apply here. The hunting talent says
Do you
there's a
have that?
plus. No, well, if it's not the same as this, then no.
It's not.
Okay. I have hunting instincts, so
Hunting
Then it's
instincts is
just
different than
this.
hunter talents, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Then I will spend a willpower point and designate Merrick as my quarry, as you
So
said.
just to clarify again, you're not going to be able to do that until you find evidence of him. You need to pick up his scent.
Oh,
You
got
know
it.
what he
Okay.
smells like, but you need to
I need
find
to
out
like
where.
pick up the scent.
Yeah. As soon
Got
as you
it.
find evidence of him, you'll be able to follow where it's gone to, kind of thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. But in the meantime, I will do a scouting roll.
Yes. So let's go ahead and have Sam's going to roll survival.
Okay.
As Sam is leading the way, Thadri is taking point. So they are leading the way as you all journey north into. This is going to be a lighter forest. It's obviously not as dense as the one you were journeying into. So Sam, go ahead and make that roll, and then make your scouting check, if you would please, Gordon.
Made my roll, made my push, took 1 damage, but got 2 successes.
Okay, so
Cool.
that damage goes to your wits, correct?
Correct. I'm now at 5 wits until I
So-
rest.
So we're going to say that damage manifests is just like whatever you might be feeling right now from having encountered the damn blood mist. Like if things weren't bad enough, but the agitation and irritation and alarm, that's just kind of hard to shake off, Thadri. You're keeping a stiff upper lip, as they say, especially because your friends seemed like they were really in it there for a second, but that's alarming, to say the least. But that is going to be a successful roll. So you will be able to journey into that hex.
And I got 1 success on my scouting roll.
All right, I'm going to roll on the encounter table. Let's find out if y'all run into any more good stuff out here in the Forbidden Lands. This is considered forest. All right, here we go. You actually, how many successes did you get?
1.
1 success.
1 on the scouting, yeah.
Perfect. As you all continue to journey north and the day starts to grow longer and longer, you can see the beauty of the forest itself and its wild, untamed glory is something to behold as you were all journeying. But you're starting to get a feeling of, even just this far north of Seven Raven, how remote this place feels. And that, about the time y'all are about towards the end of the quarter day journey, this quarter day as you're journeying north, because remember, it's still technically morning. Your nose twitches, Gordon, as you pick up a very familiar scent.
Merrick?
Indeed, you think you might have actually, some piece of evidence of him is nearby. As y'all are journeying between these, forest is to the left and to the right of you right now. And this little like patch of strip of plains that stretches out before you, you think you smell the presence of Merrick here.
Oh, all right. He was here. He was definitely here. And which direction?
From the top of
Not
your
sure
horse,
yet.
it's impossible to tell. You're not sure from just where you are.
Okay.
But you can smell that around here.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Is there
close by.
any kind of check that you can make, like that if Sylvain popped off the horse for a second, for me to be able to look, like investigation kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. Well, so the good news is, both the good news and the bad news is because the dice system of Forbidden Lands can be quite brutal sometimes, they caution making players roll too often. So in instances like this, because A, you're a mist stalker, and B, you're good at investigating, this is one of those instances where you just tell me you look, and you, if it's there, you find it.
Yeah,
this
so she'll
case-
pop off Binky and like look around a little bit.
You swing your leg over the top of your horse and drop down off to the side and immediately stalk off into some of the high grass, scaring a couple of birds, which is actually what cues you to where you should go look.
Oh no. Okay.
And as you approach this area where some birds, ravens in particular, were scattered, you come across in the grass, thankfully, not a body, but instead what looks like a pack of rations. Like a sack that has been torn open and ripped apart that the ravens were currently eating and tearing up. Definitely belonged to Merrick.
Are any of the rations still
Merrick's.
usable?
a few of them, which, by the way, I should note, everybody mark this down on their character sheet because we forgot to do this. Everybody gets D10 water and D10 rations.
Oh, lovely.
But you don't have to roll for those because I'm assuming you ate before you left Seven Raven, so you're good for the day. You don't have to make any rations checks today.
Okay. I will pick up the pack. Make sure that I pick it up with a hand that's got a glove on it, so I don't mix up the smells. And bring it back.
You bring it back, and you can see, all three of you can see clear signs of what looks like tear into the leather. Something grabbed him. No blood, though.
I'm going to get down from my mount and sniff the this package and see if I can pick up the second scent of what grabbed him.
You all kind of watch mystified as Gordon does what Gordon does as a wolfkin. That's just innate to their kin. They're able to instinctively be able to hunt and track. There's no way this hasn't been laying out here any shorter than like 3 or 4 days now. But you watch as Gordon gets down low and just starts sniffing. How much willpower are you spending?
1.
Okay, so for the next 24 hours, you will be able to stalk in the correct direction of Merrick, wherever he may be. You catch his scent. It is deeper to the west into the woods, in this direction here.
That way. That's where he went.
Well, that sounds to me like this is a good place to set up. Make sure we don't get caught unawares again. Go in there first thing in the morning.
We can look around here and see if there aren't any other hints that we may have missed.
Sylvain will kind of shake out his pack to see how many rations are still there that could be used.
You shake out his pack. There is a die's worth of water and a die's worth of food.
Also looking to see if there's any money in there that she can take from him.
No money, but you do see he apparently was charting his journey.
Oh.
And marking, he was being a good little hunter, a good stalker, and he was marking possible places. And you see he's made notes. The last note he wrote in the entry looks like he's done a very crude drawing of some of the tree lines where you might be standing right now. And on the lower right corner of this worn parchment, you see hunting ground ?
I found something interesting. Would you like to see it?
Yeah.
She'll hand the map over. I think this is pretty, besides that nose of yours, this is pretty definitive proof that we're going the right direction, at least. And then after that, Sylvain will join with Daedry as they look around.
Okay.
Daedry is interested in the snatch. Or whatever it is that happened, to cause the separation of man from their rational being.
Yep. Daedry wants to go to their mind palace right now, correct? To try to figure out
what circumstance would do that, and if that is within, because it seemed a touch outside the behavioral pattern of Manticore to do such a yoink. But yes, I'm trying to reconstruct what might have happened based on what I see around here.
Roll an insight check.
I will do this. I'm 1 wits down because I took a little bit of damage. Oh! 3.
3 successes?
Yes.
Oh, man.
I did the thing with the tray again where I looked and I saw another one.
3, good Lord.
Wits are good when I have
Here's
them.
what... You're glancing around, and it starts to slowly dawn on you, Daedry, the really important piece of evidence that Sylvain just Sylvain just uncovered and this torn pack. You start thinking back to Manticores, demonic creatures. They don't have wings. They are very large and lion-like. You glance around, thinking about the theory of the hunting ground. And you can't imagine him being grabbed and then torn free of this thing. Maybe he was dragged and it came off. Maybe he was tackled and dragged and it came off. You start glancing around a little bit more and stepping away from the horse. And with 3 successes, you're kind of just idly putting your hands out and letting the tips of the tall grass tickle your palm for a second as you're thinking. And then you glance down at the tall grass, and then with an alarmed look on your face, you look around, all around you, the tall grass. You start doing the math. This lion-bodied creature, how would it hunt? And it starts to occur to all of you. It's like it occurs to you in that moment, Phaedry, with 3 successes, you begin to realize where you
Tall
are.
grass.
Gordon, Sylvain,
Yeah?
do not be alarmed, but recall the ambush predatory nature of the monster whom we hunt.
Sylvain will kind of look at Phaedry for a second, look at the tall grass, and then you would see it slowly dawn over her face that she just walked right on in there and picked up the pack. And it's just that just bad idea. That was a very bad idea. So
I scrunch in a touch closer to the ones with the big swords.
Okay.
Very slowly.
Sword
much
unsheathing.
attention.
Yep.
You
As
hear the
Sylvain,
steel scraping against the inside of your scabbard as you draw forth the great sword and grip it with both hands.
As Sylvain starts to draw her sword, she sweeps her eyes over the tall grass to see if she can see any broken stalks or anything that looks slightly depressed in.
Sylvain, now that you know what to look for, those sharp half-elven eyes of yours glancing over the tops of these tall stalks of grass, you also make it a point to look at some of the smaller, like, sapling trees that grow on the edges of the forest to see how they've fared, looking for any signs of a large creature that might have stalked through the area at some point. From where you are, you do think you see along the tree line evidence of something that has moved through here. When it's happened, you're not sure, but you do see a very distinctive contrast of the insides of like the broken branch of a tree being sharply contrasted against its dark bark. You can see this sort of split about 30 yards away on one of these smaller trees. You wouldn't have known to have spotted that before, but it catches your eye now. It's possible that's from a few days ago, but right now all 3 of you are standing very still and observing.
Maybe we don't set up camp here.
I concur.
Yes, maybe we go a little bit further out. You see that hex to the east?
Let's bring up the map.
Sorry, I was getting that. There's a hex to the east of where we are that's already got the blue dot that's been explored. We could maybe head to the border of that because we know what's in there and set up there on the edge so that we don't have very far to travel the next day, but we're also out of, lunch. We are not buffet for this evening. Today, maybe tomorrow.
Yes, you could do that. You could basically withdraw, travel another quarter day, a couple of hours to the southeast, and set up camp for the night and refresh yourselves if you choose.
And this wasn't dark forest, so this wasn't difficult terrain, was it?
No, this area is not dark horse or difficult dark.
So that
forest.
means because we're on mounts and those mounts have more movement than we do, we should be able to, within the same quarter day, so without getting behind schedule, make our way to that hex.
You shouldn't have any problems with that.
Yeah, cool.
Because on horseback, I believe you get to travel three hexes a day.
And get there in time.
Yep.
So that it's still light enough.
Yeah. And ultimately, I wouldn't intuit that manticores are crepuscular hunters. That's not broadly.
I can give that to you. Pattern. Again, with 3 successes, you're kind of the lore of the bestiary right now. Manticores, being demons, don't seem to have a preference for time of day when they hunt.
Fair.
They don't really follow a cycle the way a normal animal might.
Fair.
They hunt when they're hungry.
Yes, but they're always hungry.
Well, it's also important to know that manticores, being demonic, don't necessarily just hunt when they're hungry. They are cruel creatures that just like to kill things.
Hunger writ broadly. We didn't say hunger for what?
It's true.
Misery, suffering.
However, as y'all are having this conversation, Gordon, let's switch back off the map for a second. Gordon, you're listening to them talk and kind of taking stock of it, glancing off into the tall grass, and you don't notice it at first, but after a second, when it starts to get a little uncomfortable, you realize you've been clenching your jaw a little bit. You realize your heart's kind of pounding a little harder than it normally does. And there's a scent that's intermingling on that pack that Thaydri has that's not the smell of the quarry that you were looking for. This isn't Merrick's smell. This is the smell of the creature you suspect. There's a musk, like dark, like dusty, almost horse-like, but sort of a deeper foul stench to it that maybe is imperceptible to the animals around you, but you smell it. And as you're sniffing it, you start feeling this desire to hunt and kill this thing. It kind of wells up inside you for a moment. And as you're experiencing that sort of lust for the hunt, you think you see a shadowy outline of a manticore in front of you, and the shadowy outline of a struggling human being dragged into the grass. It can't see detail because you're seeing shadows. But as your heart's pounding, you can see this thing drags this human into the tree line where they vanish from sight. And there's this impulse. He doesn't know that you have it sent. You could be the hunter right now. You can just feel that sort of the thrill of knowing that your prey doesn't know you're upon it.
And it went in the direction of
the tree
to
line.
The west. The west.
Into the trees. And if any of you have been speaking to Gordon has been completely unresponsive. Not only that, but his pupils have dilated as he's staring off into the trees, and his teeth have begun to show a little bit. There's an animalistic quality to him where you just see him going.
It would have been one of those things where Thaydri and I were talking, and then, what do you think, Gordon?
Yeah.
Gordon?
A strange look coming over Gordon's face as he just does not seem to respond to you.
Do you see something? Is he all right?
Gordon starts to walk towards the tree line.
Gordon suddenly just starts to stalk towards the tree line.
No.
Swords by the way, two-handed sword still out, just kind of starts stalking towards the trees.
Gordon.
And but I say
Gordon?
stalking, I don't mean like heavily like a warrior going into combat. You see the hackles go up a little bit, the ears go back, and Gordon looks kind of like a giant wolfman that wants to hunt.
Gordon. Gordon. Oh,
I leave it to you. I leave it to you, Aliza. Does Gordon hear them? And
No.
Gordon.
All right.
I have
Gordon is
bacon.
leaving. What's that?
Sylvain,
I said I have bacon.
That would have stopped me.
Sylvain, one of us
Gordon?
doing this together is a fool. All of us doing it together is a strategy. Follow him.
I don't think. Okay,
And they move
this
forward.
is bad. Okay.
Oh no! And with that, Thaydri starts to move forward, and immediately, Sylvain, you feel that really smart plan you just come up with begin to slip away quickly as your two fellow Mist Stalkers begin to move towards the tree line.
And she would be standing there doing the thing where she's like looking at them and then like over towards where we were supposed to go. This is why I work alone. This is why I don't like friends. And she starts following them.
Okay. The three of
Working
you
alone is what got Merrick killed. We're not letting him go in after it. That's throwing good lives after bad.
Curiously enough, even though the initial report from Gordon was to go to the southeast, or southwest rather, Gordon is stalking closer toward the northwest, moving with intent. And I will say, just for the record, that neither you, Thaydri, or Sylvain have seen Gordon behave like this before. He almost seems a little unaware of the two of you. Or if he is aware, he is moving with that sort of background awareness of a hunter thinking that the wolf pack is nearby, doesn't need to check in on them. You were taking care to not make too much noise, but your heart is pounding, Gordon. You have that sense, that overwhelming sense of power, the way any hunter has over life and death when you know your prey is nearby and they don't know you're upon them. It just speaks to you. It's driving you forward. With that, I'm going to have y'all roll again on the journey roll, except Gordon is going to be the one leading the way on this. So, however, Gordon, you're going to get a +1 to the roll.
All right. Awesome.
And if
from
anybody,
the hunting.
yeah, but Gordon can't be lookout as Gordon is doing this. So I need one of y'all to pick being the lookout as y'all are journeying through the woods here.
Tall person will be the lookout.
Okay. So
Short person too close to ground.
Make a scouting check. And then, yeah.
May
and
the
then I'm gonna
demons
have-
drag you to hell, Sylvain.
I know. So I have these willpowers, and that's just the D10 added, you said, or no?
No, so when you spend willpower points, it's usually to activate talents that you have.
Oh,
or
okay, so I
abilities that you
can't.
have. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
really-
which role am I doing? The
So
survival
for you,
or scout?
Aliza, for you, it's going to be a survival
Okay.
roll.
Okay.
And mine's going to be with scouting.
Yes.
Oh, good.
As the Mist Stalkers are starting to feel a little in over their head as y'all trudge into the woods. But as one Sam to Leve says, always do the bad
Okay.
idea.
Welpity whelp, no successes.
Okay, no successes.
One success.
All right, so at least you'll see it coming.
Great.
What does it mean to get no successes on the survival roll, though?
It means I'm rolling a mishap on the table.
Unless I push and get a success.
You can push it, yes.
I'm gonna.
Otherwise, you don't travel into the next hex, and I roll on the mishap table to see what befell all three of you.
Nah, I'm gonna push it. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I got a Bane too.
You got a Bane?
Yeah,
All right,
but I
so
got
take
one
that-
success.
Okay, then you're okay. Then take that point of damage, but you're
Okay.
also going to gain a willpower point.
Okay.
And because Sylvain succeeded on the scouting check, And because you picked up the scent, you're led deeper into the forest. I'm going to roll real quick just on the encounter table to make sure. Okay. You're led deeper into the forest, and doubt starts to overcome both you, Theodry, and you, Sylvain, in particular, because you have walked through the bushes, through these trees for the better part of an hour and a half now. And you're starting to feel completely detached from the horses you left behind because you're going deeper and deeper and deeper into the woods. So we're going to go back into the map, and I'm going to mark down. You've entered this hex. All right. So did you all see that on the map real quick?
Mhm.
Oh,
Okay,
yes.
just checking. Just want to make sure that the map was on screen.
Yes.
All right, cool.
Mhm.
So in that case, as you journey on deeper into the forest, each one of you, including you, Gordon, start to hear noises about 30 or 40 yards up ahead. The forest itself has been mostly quiet aside from the sounds of the standard like animal life that probably exists in here. But each one of you as a mist stalker becomes aware that something is in front of you now because you're hearing sounds that are a little difficult to pinpoint exactly what they are. You might say they sound like something large moving across a heavy rock, perhaps, like a large stone. And as you get closer and closer, you begin to realize you're coming upon a grove or another tree line. With your successes, I'm not going to have anybody roll for this because everyone succeeded here. But you all emerge, you come to about like 30 feet from the tree line before your instincts all kick in, and the three of you, including you, Gordon, come to a stop. Up ahead, through the break in the trees, you see what looks like a series of giant shards, these big rocks sticking up out of the ground like giant knives made of stone, stretching up towards the sky. Between them, you can clearly see what looks like a gouging cave that kind of arcs into this rock face, disappearing into the darkness in the unmistakable form of a manticore laying on its side with bones scattered all out in front of it. And what looks like all manner of detritus from things that it's slain, clearly visible to all of you just from where you were standing. It does not seem aware of the three of you as it is laying there on its side, kind of regarding its claws. It is, in fact, exactly how you expected it. And for those of you who have never seen a manticore in real life, outside of the lore books you have studied, either becoming a mist stalker or a sorcerer, you now see what looks like a creature that is roughly 12 feet long and probably stands close to 6.5, maybe 7 feet at the shoulder. Has this huge mane of dark brown mottled black hair, and indeed a large humanoid face with almost demonic sort of embered colored eyes. You do see that giant tail that kind of snakes behind it, this big, thick, grayish, scaled looking club with spikes emitting from all sides of it. It is unaware of the three of you.
Gordon pauses here,
Okay.
and I think Gordon at this point would kind of look around and then see the manticore again,
Mm-hmm.
see his companions, and say, "All right, what do we do next?" And you realize Gordon has kind of come back to himself, his presence of mind, and acts like nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
Which direction is the manticore facing? Away from us or towards us?
Slightly away from you. I'd say mildly adjacent to where you are. So kind of like pivoted. So if I was a manticore and y'all were like approaching me, my right shoulder would be more angled towards you. So it's got line of sight if it was turn to turn in your look in your direction. But right now he's not kind of angled towards that. You have some leeway here.
What is our mechanical range right now?
Mechanical range. Very important question. Right now, y'all are going to be considered at long range.
Mm-hmm.
So Gordon and I are kind of useless at the moment.
If you're going to initiate a fight right now, yeah, anybody who can attack from long range is going
But
to
a
be eliminated.
magic user could shoot a firebolt right up his butt where those poison glands are.
Only if Merrick isn't here as well.
Oh, can I try to sniff him out? See if, I mean, he probably is. I'm probably going to pick up a scent here. But...
you don't smell him.
Oh, I don't.
No.
Oh.
You don't catch his scent.
Okay. Do you say any of that out loud, Thaedry?
That's exactly what they say.
Okay.
Yeah, because my firebolt right up the butt was in character.
I
Yeah.
figured that, yes.
You can put that on a t-shirt.
Then Gordon will also say, I don't smell Merrick.
It's a big target.
It may not destroy the demon. Usually going after the weakness is the most likely way to kill it. It's possible I wouldn't even soften it up. But they are taking their little flint out of their bandolier, and they are taking the book out of their bag, their grimoire.
As they do that, Sylvain's going to drop a little bit further and circle around a little bit so that she's more towards the back end of where it's facing.
Okay.
So that when the spell goes off, if something goes really badly, I can just run.
And
Okay.
it really might.
Point of note, stealth in this game, should you choose to use it here, works a little differently than it does in Dungeons and Dragons, where usually you require a simple stealth check to sneak up on somebody and get them. In Forbidden Lands, it's like gambling. Because the closer you decide to get to your target, the greater the penalty against you of your target being able to detect that you are nearby.
Yeah, I'm not trying to close the gap yet.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So you're just getting in position, of which none of you, because of your successes on the journey roll, none of you have to make any kind of stealth checks here. So each one of you is kind of spreading out and getting into a position where you can charge in there. So then it's easy enough for you to do that, stalking through the woods and whatnot. You kind of hunker down with your sword at the ready and get into position.
And then I'll just watch Daydream.
Daydream, I'm going to give this to you. If you're going to attack a Manticore, I'll let you decide how Thaedry is confronting this, but you can only imagine you're going to have to throw a lot of magic at this thing. A lot of magic.
But I remember very distinctly the type that Sister Rena used. So I will use my flint for a little spark, and I will speak the words aloud, and as the spark flies across, it will, if I do this right, become Raven, help me a fireball.
What spell are you casting?
Fireball.
I just want to go ahead and map this out for the rest of you.
I'm so scared.
Fireball is in Forbidden Lands, Fireball is a rank 3 spell. If you want to know what that means, let me map it out for you. Magic has 3 ranks. So, and it has a range of long. You hurl a ball of fire which explodes upon hitting the target, incinerating the area. The main target of your attack suffers damage equal to the power level. Also roll an attack against anyone within near range with a base dice equal to anyone who suffers damage from the attack immediately catches fire.
Oh my god.
So here's why magic is so powerful in Forbidden Lands. There is no saving throw. There is no resisting it. When magic gets hurled, when it is summoned forth and it happens, it just happens. There's no stopping it. That's the power of magic in this setting. So all of you become aware of sparks beginning to fill into the palm of Thaedry's hand, and Thaedry focusing on that, channeling your anxieties and fear into the center of this thing. It becomes an inferno as you hurl it. get ready to cast your first spell. What kind of power level is going into this? And you used a spell component, which means you get an automatic bonus to the power level because you used actual fire here, which is important for elementalists.
Well, so elementalists don't get the level bonus.
Oh, you don't because you require. Okay, cool.
Because it's a required ingredient.
It's a requirement for the spell. Okay.
The grimoire, however, does.
Oh, you ever? Okay.
That was been setting her up, and also because I am half elf.
Right.
Every time I spend 1 or more willpower points to activate a talent or a spell, the first willpower counts as 2.
Nice.
Oh my.
So I'm rolling 5 dice right now.
Okay.
Is it good and bad?
I was gonna say, how much willpower did you spend total?
So here's the thing. I have 7.
Wow.
Are you serious? You're gonna spend 7? Are you spending 7 willpower to cast this?
I think I should probably save in case I need to. I don't know. Cast any other spells today.
All right.
So I'm going to cast at rank. So I will spend 3 willpower points. Or rather, I will spend 2 willpower points because of my half-elven talent.
Okay.
And that will count for 3.
Correct.
And then I get an extra level from my grimoire.
In which case, so you're spending 2 then
so
total.
4 dice, I guess. Yes.
So you're spending 2 willpower. Okay, then before you roll your dice for all of that, I need you to roll your 2 dice for the willpower points you spent on the.
I actually have to roll all of them. So it increases the mishaps too.
So this is what happens every time you use sorcery. You have to spend willpower to do it, and for every willpower point you spend, you roll a d6. If Sam rolls a skull on any of those d6s, something went very wrong.
But if it's a 6, it overcharges the higher.
That's true. And no matter what happens, the spell goes off. But something can go. Magic is very dangerous. It's powerful and it's dangerous. So go ahead and roll. Did you roll 2 ones?
No, I did not. I rolled a 6 and a 1.
So you overcharged and you magical
mishappened. Yep.
Okay.
So it's going to be a total of level 5 when it goes off because of Grimoire plus the overcharge.
Right. So the overcharge means an additional power level to the spell. So it got even more powerful. So Sam, would you like me to roll on the magical mishap table or would you like to roll on it?
Roll it.
Okay.
Roll it.
2d6.
Roll it. Don't roll 66, please. Thank you.
Okay. It all happens at once. The fire swells up into your hand. You feel the power of sorcery around you. Everyone who's looking at Thaedry right now is watching one of the rare events of the Forbidden Lands, someone who's summoning sorcery. The air around Thaedry, as that begins to summon forth in the palm of their hand, you can see the waves of heat emanating from their body like a blistering summer day as this fire grows into a small little flame that starts to swirl around itself. And at the moment they throw it, that thing explodes into a globe the size of a bowling ball, the size of a beach ball, the size of a boulder, and it explodes out from the trees. The Manticore doesn't have time to notice it. The woods around the fireball, as it comes crashing out, don't necessarily catch fire so much as they're immediately disintegrated under the magical heat as it explodes out from the tree line. As it slams into the Manticore, you feel pain rack your body, Thaedry. You feel from the core of your being, you just feel it's not joint pain, it's not muscle pain, it is deeper than that. You feel it's more than just your being itself feels like it's being torn apart for a split second. It almost feels like your skeleton, your meat, and your skin are all trying to go 3 different directions before they realign and you collapse to the ground, gasping for breath. Take 1 point of damage to your strength as you lucked out on that magical mishap. That being said, the ball of fire crashes into the Manticore and immediately ignites it into flames, doing 5 points of damage. I'm going to mark that down here. You might say a little surprised. The demonic roar that emits from this thing is something you're either going to laugh about over drinks later or something that's going to haunt you till the end of your days. We're not going to know until we come back next week.
Oh.
Because it's 10 o'clock.
Why
our
not
time, and we're
both?
pre-tape. So we have to stop because we are starting combat. And when we come back, it'll be time to roll initiative.
Against an
Dun,
on
dun.
fire Manticore.
Yeah, talk about a hell of an opening salvo. Like, good Lord. Because what's going to happen now, the Manticore being on fire, unless the Manticore does something, catches fire and suffers another point of damage at the start of every round until it successfully rolls a move roll to extinguish the flames. So the Manticore is probably going to have to decide, do I deal with this half-elf that's wielding a longsword screaming as she comes charging out of the woods, or do I try to roll on the ground and put myself out of fire? Those are the options. Doesn't even know about the wolfkin that's about to try to charge it from the flank.
I distracted it.
Yeah.
Big time.
This is our first chapter of the Journeys of the Mist Stalkers of Seven, Raven. So thank you so much. I hope you all had fun tonight. We only really got into the meat of the system in the second half of the game. So things are going to be really interesting next week. And we'll have BeeZelda back. So that's going to be funsies. Thank you so much for joining us. And as a quick reminder, this game is possible because of all the support you give the Streampunks. Our interim game that we're launching now, and that's going to take us into Changeling in February, it's possible because of y'all, and it helps us support these wonderful players. So thank you for doing that. We love you to death. That's going to do it for us. We'll catch you next Monday. Farewell.